Dog has been dead for 15 years. This happened many years ago, but remains fresh in my mind. In college, I was dating a girl and we were running errands around town, but stopped by my grandparents' house to grab something while no one was home. The house is the old school ranch style, and this event took place in the laundry room, which was between the kitchen and the garage. We just entered the laundry room from the garage and decided to make out when we heard a dog running towards us on the floor. He ran the length of the dining room into the kitchen and around the corner to the laundry room where the girlfriend and I were standing. We both heard him, we both saw him, and we both watched him as he ran between our legs and into the closed garage door, and into nothing. We both sat there silent for a few moments and just stared in disbelief that this just happened. The little dog has been dead since I was young, but was alive for those brief moments. The final sin. "Daddy, what's happening?" Fear laced his every word as his 5-year-old mind tried to grasp the destruction and carnage outside the window. "It's alright, son. Everything will end soon," his father assured him through tears and false smiles. "Will it hurt?" asked the boy, sobbing. "No, you won't feel this one. Be sure to search for Mommy up there, okay?" The father reluctantly said as he loaded the final bullet into his gun. "I love you, Daddy," said the boy as he closed his eyes. "I love you too," the father said as the monstrosities broke through their makeshift barricades. I'm sorry," the father whispered as he shot himself. The Happy Man. My name is Dr. Michael Knight. I have been a psychiatrist at Hampstead Hospital in Hampstead, New Hampshire since 1987. On September 21st, 1989, we received a patient by the name of Cynthia Vickers, who suffered from paranoid schizophrenia, depression, just about every mental disorder they teach you in medical school. If I remember correctly, she was sent to Hampstead when police received complaints of strange noises and foul odor coming from her apartment. When they arrived, Cynthia charged out of the door covered in blood, urine, and feces towards the officers, who subdued her and entered her apartment. What they discovered still chills me to this day. In the bathroom were dozens of cats, skinned alive, wriggling and screaming in agony through pools of their own blood and excrement. The officer later told me, still shaken by what he had seen, that there must have been an inch of blood in that small bathroom. That officer would later go on to hang himself in his closet in 1993. I was assigned to be Cynthia's psychiatrist. During our first session, she was unresponsive, eerily quiet, and nearly catatonic. Rather than answer my questions, she instead would stare at me with her pale gray eyes deeply set into her ghostly gaunt face. Over time, she began to open up, and I learned that she was raped repeatedly by her father and 3 uncles, sometimes consecutively. When she had tried to confront her mother about it, Cynthia's mother beat her for spreading disgusting lies about her father. She exhibited reactive attachment disorder as a child, showing no remorse for abusing and killing small animals. As a teen, she would regularly trap stray cats and take them to an abandoned warehouse where she would beat, torture, and eventually kill them, burning their bodies afterwards. When asked why she targeted her zoo sadism towards cats, Cynthia said she enjoyed the way they scream. Being a psychiatrist, hearing those disturbing and sickening confessions is standard protocol, but it was when she described the happy man that made my hair stand on end. Cynthia explained that when she was 16, she was visited for the first time by the happy man. She was sitting on her porch looking into the woods behind her home when she heard a man's laughter coming from within the trees. She said she had blinked, and there at the tree line stood a tall, thin man with blue veins shaking under his pale white skin. Cynthia said he wore dark, loose, blood-stained overalls, and that the skin on his face had been pulled tightly upward and stitched in place, with a nail embedded in his upper lip forming a grotesque smile. In an instant, the man was on her porch standing over Cynthia. He leaned down and shrieked, "Smile!" before vanishing. Over the years, Cynthia said she was visited many times by the Happy Man, each time hearing his maniacal laughter before he appeared. During her stay at Hampstead, Cynthia took to staring out of the windows into the woods that surrounded the hospital, mumbling incoherently and seemingly never blinking. When she was allowed to go outside, she would sneak out food to try and attract stray cats. When I asked why she repeatedly did this, Cynthia revealed that she had discovered by accident that the Happy Man was terrified by cats when he visited her while she was trapping a stray. How ironic, I thought, that she would sneak salvation to the animals she tortured for pleasure. She tearfully pleaded with me to allow her to have a cat for protection. As this was against hospital policy and health code, I instead reasoned with her by purchasing stuffed cats and safe plastic toy cats to keep in her room. She seemed happy with her new guardians, and months passed without incident until I got a call around 3 a.m. on Saturday, June 7, 1997. I was called by a frantic nurse who was trying to explain what was going on, but Cynthia's screaming in the background proved hearing the nurse difficult, so I rushed to assess the situation. When I arrived, Cynthia was kicking and screaming. As the nurses tried to hold her down, I noticed that she was covered in deep lacerations. I tried to calm her down to no avail, and I was forced to sedate her so that her wounds could be treated. After they carried her off, I noticed that the cat dolls I had given her were completely gutted and turned inside out, and her plastic toys were slashed with what looked like razors, which are not available to patients for obvious reasons. Over the next week, her condition deteriorated and she was tormented by auditory hallucinations of the Happy Man's laughter. It seemed that every day she would have a new cut or gash, so I decided to place her under suicide watch. I remember our last session on June 16th, in which she told me that she hadn't harmed the animals they had found in her apartment. She said the Happy Man who had overcome his fear of cats would come for her soon. She heard laughter from the woods. The next morning I pulled up to Hampstead Hospital like any other day, but I was greeted by police cruisers and their flashing blue lights. An officer told me that Cynthia had killed the nurse watching over her the night prior and killed herself. I was in shock. The officer said they hadn't located the murder weapon, but the nurse's head had been bashed in by a hammer or like blunt instrument. As the pale-faced orderlies wheeled Cynthia's body to the morgue, the sheet caught something and revealed her face. The skin from the corners of her mouth had been stretched and hooked to either temple. Her upper lip was hooked in place, revealing her bloody facial muscles and twisting her face into a monstrous smile. Several of the staff and officers rushed out of the hallway vomiting or growing faint at the horrific visage. When I asked the coroner what her cause of death was, he told me it was a combination of sudden cardiac arrest due to shock and blood loss due to self-mutilation. 16 years have passed since that grisly morning, and I thought I had forgotten it and moved on. Yesterday we received a new patient, a 17-year-old girl suffering from schizophrenia and depression. In our first session, I asked if she had any other personalities she associates herself with. She said no, but she is visited by a tall, pale man in overalls with his facial skin stretched into a smile, who cuts her arms and legs. I felt the blood in my face drain when she showed me her journal, which included a page with this drawing and caption that read, "The Happy Man." She said she can hear laughter from the woods outside the hospital. He is telling her to smile. I give up. We've been stuck together for too long. I've been that comforting, reassuring sound you needed in times of silence. I've worked for you, raced to save you, taken everything you've dished out, and in return, you broke me. You burned me. You pitted me against forces that you knew I could not best, and threw me into battles that even if I won, would turn out badly for you anyway. In the back of your mind, you knew I could only do so much for you, but you pushed me on anyway. Sometimes I don't think you know I'm here at all. Sometimes I think you forget that I'm working every second of every day just for you. So I've decided, as you sleep tonight, I'm just going to stop beating. You won't even know it's happened. I'm going to lose my damn mind. I got a box in the mail about 2 weeks ago. I used to love getting packages. I opened it and found that the only thing inside was a bloody gray stump. A finger. Then I woke up. I wish that this was where the story ended, a bad dream. I couldn't get back to sleep after that. It had felt so real. After giving up on sleep and getting showered and dressed, I went downstairs to find that my kitchen sink had clogged. A steak knife had fallen deep into the drain. When I reached inside to pull it out, the disposal kicked on. For a second, I saw a flash of my pale, severed flesh being buffeted around by the whirling blades. I never found the finger. I wish that was where the story ended. But in last night's dream, I got another package. Inside was a brain. I'm not getting out of bed today. Love, Adam. Dear Ellie, I know you don't know me very well, but I love you. You're just so perfect. Your smile, your laugh, you're so pretty, so nice. I just can't help but love you, and since I'm so shy, I thought maybe it'd be a good idea to write all my feelings down and slip them into your locker. I can watch you open it. Isn't that wonderful? Love, Adam. Dear Ellie, you didn't see me. That's okay. I was hiding. I couldn't bear to look you in the eye anyway. I just wanted to see you smile when you saw someone had a crush on you. But this is so much more than a crush. This is true love. Don't you see, my darling? We were meant to be, you and I. So why were you talking to Josh the other day? Maybe I'm paranoid and you two are just friends. Isn't that right, my love? Looking forward to seeing you read this. Love, Adam. Dear Ellie, how could you? How could you kiss Josh? How could you look your friend in the eyes with your gorgeous smile and tell her that you two are dating? I love you. I love you so much it hurts. No matter, I'll have to take matters into my own hands. I'll prove to you that Josh is unworthy. That way you'll only have me. Love, Adam. Dear Ellie, don't cry. Josh is gone now. He was standing between us. I made sure his death was swift, so he wouldn't be in pain just for you. I love you. Ellie, don't worry. Everything will be fine. On the bright side, I found out where you live now, so we don't have to restrict our love to school. You mean everything to me. Ellie, you're my world. Love, Adam. Dear Ellie, I think our relationship has reached a new milestone. I'm so happy. Last night I saw you naked. You had forgotten to close the window. I guess you did it on purpose though, just for me. I'm still so shy. I can't even work up the courage to see you. Anyway, why did you call the cops after reading my last letter, Ellie? Don't you know that made it difficult for me to see you? They won't find me though, so don't worry. I'll still be here for you. Love, Adam. Dear Ellie, you didn't tell me you were moving. Right out of state too? That's sad. But no matter. Your old neighbors were forwarding your mail, so I found you again. This is spectacular. Now I can watch you all the time, even in your new school. You look tired, though, so rest more. I like watching you sleep. Love, Adam. Dear Ellie, I want to hold you, so I'm coming for you. Love, Adam. Dear Ellie, we are together. Some nights we cuddle, others we talk. Of course I'm doing most of the talking. I'm so happy we are together. You were so scared at first, but now you're mine forever. It's a shame, though. You're starting to rot. Love, Adam. Dear Maggie, I know you don't know me very well, but I love you. The Music Box. Not too long ago, there was a very poor man named Sebastian who lived in an old abandoned building. One night, after he came home from his evening stroll, he went into the kitchen to have a snack. He most often would make ham and cheese sandwiches since he had nothing else to eat. As he took a bite of his sandwich, he felt a sharp pain in the back of his teeth. He went to the bathroom and looked into a mirror. His hair was a mess, his eyes were bloodshot, his clothes were dirty, there were bloodstains on his face, and the teeth he had left were horrendously dirty. He looked where the pain came from. A piece of ham was stuck inside his gums where his molars are. Of course, if he were smart, he would have pulled the ham out, but instead he took out a syringe needle in one of the drawers that had clear fluid inside, placed it in his gums, and slowly injected the fluid. Then he grabbed pliers from the same drawer and began yanking at his tooth. He kept yanking and yanking and yanking until he pulled it right out. A pool of blood ran out of his mouth and drained into the sink. He looked at his tooth with wonder, thinking about where he wanted to keep it, but this was nothing new. He placed it in a small tin box with the other lost teeth. Later, he was reading a ghost story at the kitchen table for about 2 hours. Afterwards, he was beginning to feel tired and wanted to go to bed. He placed the book down and was heading upstairs, until he heard a quiet tune coming from his basement. He grew curious of what it could be. Pausing, he turned around and went back down the stairs to investigate. He opened the basement door, turned on the flashlight, and explored. He could faintly hear the music, but he continued on. It got louder on every step he took, and soon the sound seemed loud enough for him to be in the same room with it. He stopped. He looked at an old white queen-size bed, which where the music was coming from. He approached, feeling the need to satisfy his curiosity. He was getting really nervous. He bent over, quickly pulling back the sheet, and looked downward. His eyes widened when he saw a small music box with an open top. He reached over and closed the music box and took it upstairs. He placed it on the kitchen table and examined it. He didn't understand what it was doing down in the basement, and more so, why it was open, but he didn't question it. He opened the music box and it was playing Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. He looked surprised when the song played. It reminded him of how he was a kid. His mother would always sing this to him as a lullaby. Then his small smile slowly turned to a wider grin. Immediately the music stopped. He lost his grin and started to worry. At first he didn't understand why it wasn't playing anymore, and finally he thought that the batteries were dead and began looking for new ones in the kitchen. He looked in every drawer and cabinet until he finally found new ones. But when he looked on the table, the music box had mysteriously went missing. He slightly began to panic and started looking for it. As he was looking for the music box, the power suddenly went off. Now he was really frightened. He quickly grabbed a flashlight in one of the drawers and turned it on. Then he heard the music box playing upstairs, and he was nothing short of terrified. He slowly walked upstairs to find the music box, and as he made it to the top steps, his flashlight started flickering and turned off. He was banging on the flashlight for it to turn on, but gave up, as it didn't seem to be working. When the music started to play in one of the rooms, he swung the door open. As he opened the door, the melody suddenly stopped. He looked into the room, and there was nothing but pitch black. Then he heard the music again and walked down the hall. Listening carefully, he tracked down the source, but once again the music stopped as he opened the door. And just like the first room, it was pitch black and there was nothing there. Finally, the music was coming from the room at the end of the hallway. He walked slowly to the room, paying special attention to stay quiet. The floors were creaking with every step he took. As he opened the door, the music didn't stop this time. The room wasn't pitch black, but a stream of moonlight from his window shone on his bed where the music box was sitting, and the top was open just like before. He slowly walked towards his bed and picked up the music box. He felt relieved, lighting a big grin. As the music was playing, he heard the door slam behind him, but he was too scared to turn around. Then he heard footsteps coming towards him. He quickly turned around. The footsteps stopped and no one was there. He looked back at the music box, the footsteps getting louder again. He turned once more, and again the footsteps stopped, and no one was there. Again he looked back at the music box. This time the footsteps got even louder and closer than ever. Now the footsteps stopped almost right behind him. Then the music stopped. He became so terrified he held his breath. He slowly turned his head, but again, no one was there. The music quickly turned on, giving him a shock. And he just had to look over his shoulder. He loudly screamed. The deafening sound echoed throughout the entire room. A few days later, when someone else went into the abandoned building, Sebastian was gone without a trace, aside from a few things filling the cabinets and shelves. However, they did find a music box sitting on his bed, open and playing a familiar childhood melody. Perhaps they should take it with them. Standing behind you. My wife took her first trip out of town after having our first child. Our daughter was maybe 3 at the time, and I still had to help her get ready for bed. As I stood her up on her old changing table to get her pajamas on, she looked over my shoulder and whispered in my ear, "Daddy, there's a monster standing behind you." As the shiver in my spine dropped to the pit of my stomach, I slowly turned around to look and said, "Sweetheart, there's nothing there." Without missing a beat, she said, "I know, it ran out the door." 25 years. 25 years it's been. 25 years, 2 months, 14 days, 11 hours, and 22 minutes to be exact. I've been counting every second, tracking every minute, hour, day, month, year, decade. It's gone on so long that I've learned to multitask and commit to other thoughts while part of me carries on counting. I thought it wouldn't last long, figured it would all just fade away eventually. They said it was supposed to go black when you died. It was supposed to fade when your brain activity ceased. Nobody told me that your mind carries on, that your thoughts are all you have left. As black as the moment you shut your eyes, as lonely as a never-ending dream, only far less vivid. Just an endless scape of black and silence. 25 years, 2 months, 14 days, 11 hours, and 24 minutes since I last lost count. Waves. "Daddy, look!" Jacob yelled. I could barely hear his voice over the heavy, constant bass of rock and roll. "What, kiddo?" I asked as I plucked my earbuds out of my ears and lifted my sunglasses. Familiar beach scenery greeted me. White sand and countless folding chairs and umbrellas and people standing on the shore. It was just as hot as earlier and just as bright. I had to squint in order to see anything. My son was inches away from my face, smiling and giggling in excitement. "Daddy, look, look!" he shouted. It didn't take me long to realize that he was talking about the ocean. I glanced over his shoulder, expecting to see the familiar blue water swelling and swaying and its waves gliding towards the shore. But there was just the ocean floor. Just the ocean floor for miles and miles and miles, stretching towards the horizon. They ring. Quiet, be very still. Turn off everything. Complete silence. Do you hear that? That dull whisper of a ring? Some say this is nothing, that it's only your ears adjusting. It is nothing to worry about. Forget it. but in reality, it is their voices. If you focus enough, you will be able to distinguish the voices. First letters, then words, then whole sentences. You will hear them talking about what they have done, what they plan to do to you. But be careful. All voices have bodies. All ears have bodies. And if you listen too closely, they will have yours. Listen to them. You cannot unhear. Pyro. For Ed, there were worse things than the zombie apocalypse, like jail. But Ed could now light all the fires he wanted without seeing inside of a cell. Lighting up Z's was the best. They went up like Roman candles, even without gasoline. He lit them up with matches, shot them with flare guns, even tied one down and set it ablaze with a magnifying glass. He learned too late that Z's can burn for quite a while before they can't bite anymore. Ed turned the gas can on himself and welcomed the flames. They weren't any less fascinating just because he was the fuel. Mike and Jane. Jane was washing up dishes in the new kitchen, staring out of the window into the street. It was the third new location in many years as they fled Mike, her pig-faced, homicidal ex-husband, but she didn't care as long as she was away from him. Suddenly she froze. She looked down at the bright red apron she was wearing. The plate she was washing slipped out of her hand, smashing on the kitchen floor. She started to shake and the tears poured from her eyes. She screamed for her daughter to grab her things. The daughter started to protest but saw the genuine fear in her mother's eyes. As they ran from the kitchen, knocking over lamps and frantically stuffing clothes into their bags, the music from the radio on the kitchen worktop died away and the announcer came back on. And just to repeat, that was from Mike for Jane. He says he's never as far away as you think and wanted us to play Lady in Red for you. Heavy breathing. If you're ever alone and in bed at night, and the only thing that you can hear is yourself breathing heavily, try this. Suddenly and randomly stop breathing. You'll trip it up. Now you know it's there. And now it knows too. Sleep well. Alright guys, that's all the creepypastas for this week. I will see you guys on Tuesday for Time to Die Tuesday. You could give me a roar down in the comments if you want more. Give me a like and a share. Tell your friends. And I will see you guys Tuesday. Peace.